Welcome to lecture 18 on core circuit theory. So in the last class we have seen how can we solve the second order circuit using the classical approach. So we have seen the series RLC circuit, also parallel RLC circuit, and we have written the equations which we have obtained in terms of differential form, and then from that we have obtained the characteristic equation. We are a system operator which was, let's say, p square plus a1p plus a2 if it is equal to 0. Then from that we can find out the two roots, that is p1 and p2, which will be minus b plus minus square root of b square minus 4ac divided by 2a. Now here a is 1, so we can check it this way. And from that we have seen three different cases, that is if a1 square is greater than 4a2, then your roots will be real and distinct. So at the what is the form of second order equation that we have seen? The form is known as the overdamped form or overdamped response. Then we have also seen what will happen if a1 square is equal to 4a2. So at that time what will be the case? Here the roots will be real and repeated, and in this situation what kind of response we have obtained? We have got it the response that is called critically damped response or critically damped circuit. Also we have seen what if a1 square is less than 4a2. So what is the effect on it? The effect is that a1 square, if it is less than 4a2, then the roots will be, you will get a complex conjugate pair, and if the roots are complex conjugate pair, we solve that circuit and we named it, the response is underdamped response. Okay. Now next fourth case we will see what will happen if my real part is not there, means if there will be only imaginary roots. Okay. So for that let me take one circuit which looks like this. There is E. Already we have seen this when we have solved or when we have determined the initial and final conditions for the different circuits using the physical inspection. At that time we have seen this example. Now we'll try to solve it using differential approach, and there is capacitor which is connected here. Okay, so suppose this is my switch K and it will move at t is equal to this, t is equal to 0 to this position. Let me name it. This is position A, this is position B, and suppose this is my EA as a battery, this is my resistor L and C. Terminals polarities are like this. Suppose current is flowing this way. Okay, fine, and let us take it some numerical values. L is say 2 Henry and capacitor is say 2 Farad, which are very large, but for sake of simplicity we will take it the values. Okay, now first what we will say, that first problem is that if the switch is at position A, then what will happen? The E, that's voltage source connected to C, so it will become your series RC circuit that we have seen already, and due to that what will happen? Your capacitor will be charged fully. Okay, after 4 or 5 time constants your capacitor will charged, and the voltage across capacitor will be E into 1 minus a raised to minus t upon RC, which was your time constant, into u of t function, means it is a switching instant. Okay, now let us consider E is say 20 volt. Now I am assuming that capacitor has been charged with the voltage 20 volt. Okay, so if that, now first position, first switch was at position A, at that time your capacitor has been charged. Now what I will do, I will move the switch from A to position B at some switching instant, let's say t is equal to 0. Okay, so if this is the case, let me redraw the next circuit, which will be L and C, or Right. First let me connect this C, and then suppose you can draw either way, there is no constraint on it. So this was your C and this is your L. Now the current direction, its choice is with me. Let me assume I is this way. Okay, doesn't matter. And what we said, value of E is suppose 20 volt. So let me write the equation for it. And suppose this is my V of t. So I have to find out, or my aim is to obtain what will be the voltage at any time t. So to get it, let me use the KVL here. So it will be the voltage across capacitor, let's say at any time is V. Now let me find out what is the voltage across L. So it will be, there is the voltage drop here, so minus VL di by dt. That is, and what I have to obtain, I have to solve for the voltage across capacitors. So I will try to obtain all this equation in terms of V. So to get it this, let me write the I in terms of V. So how can we write that? I will be equal to C into dV by dt. While I am writing this, let me check it, my direction of current which I have been assumed. So I have observed here that I have assume the direction in this way. So the current is going and it is coming into negative terminal and it is going away from positive terminal. So this is the, it means the current is opposing. Okay. So what was our assumed polarity? Our assumed polarity for the capacitor was like this, where current was going into positive terminal and going away from negative terminal, right? That we have assumed it till now, right? So if I'll assume the same, if I'll keep the same assumption, what here I am observing that this current will be reverse. Okay, so it will be minus I. So you can write V, and this minus will become plus L, and this will be C, then d2V by dt square, which is 0. And now it is again second order equation, so we know how to solve it. So let me write it, d2V upon dt square plus 1 over LC V of t, and it is homogeneous equation now. So I know how to solve, that is V of t will be now k1 e raised to 1 root p1t plus k2 e raised to second root p2t, right? And my aim is to get it P1 and P2 as also K1 and K2. So first find out the roots. So for that, consider the system operator, which will be, we have considered P, which is d by dt. So I can write P square plus 1 over LC, okay, which is 0. And L is 2 we have assumed, and C is also 2. So this again can be written as P square plus 1 by 4, that is 0. And what are the roots? P1 and P2 will be plus minus half j. There will be now imaginary roots. Okay. So now the equation for the voltage at any time t you can write as K1 e raised to half jt plus K2, this K1 e raised to minus half j into t. Okay. Now to get it K1 and K2, let me assume the initial conditions. So what was the initial condition? We seen that it was series RC circuit, it has been charged, and what was the charge voltage? That was 20 volt. Okay, so V of 0 negative was 20 volt, and as it satisfies the law of continuity, so it will be also same V of 0 positive. Fine. Now next what I need what will be my V dash of 0. So in order to get it V dash of 0, I know what is minus I is equal to C dV by dt. So by the use of this I can find it out. So I0 plus will be C V dash of 0 plus, and what will be I of 0 plus? So when switch will be moved to position B, what happened? Your inductor will be, because inductor was initially relaxed, so suddenly when switch is at position B, this is my position B, so at that time what will LB behave as open circuit? So the initial current was 0 here, before the switching instant, so it will be same as after the switching instant also. So your v dash of 0 plus will be equal to I of 0 is 0, so it is simply 0. Okay. So this two type of information I will use in my resultant equation, which I will name it as 1. So here first let me evaluate for v of 0 plus, which will be k1 plus k2, which is 20. I got it equation 1. And for second, let me find out what is the differentiation. V dash is equal to k1 half j into e raised to half jt, and plus or minus k2 half j into e raised to minus half jt. Okay, and this let me evaluate at v dash 0 positive. So v dash 0 positive is equal to k1 half j minus k2 half j, which was equal to 0, right? So this implies k1 minus k2 is equal to 0, which means that k1 will be equal to k2. Okay, so this is my second equation 2. So if I solve for k1 and k2, what I'll get it? K1 will be 10. So k1 is k2, so k2 is also 10. Okay. So now my resultant v of t will be equal to 10 into e raised to half jt plus 10 e raised to minus half jt. And now I will use the Euler's identity. So if I use the Euler's identity, it will be able to convert into sinusoidal form. So half jt plus e raised to minus half jt, and that will be 2 here. So it will be 20 cos half t. Okay. So my voltage equation, voltage at any time t across C will be 20 cosine t by 2. Now if I would like to find out what is the current through the inductor, or also what is the current in that resultant LC circuit, so IT will be minus C dV by dt for the network which we have taken into consideration. It was like this. Current was flowing in this way. Okay. So this will be again C is 2. So this will be C is minus 2 d dt of this. So cos B is minus sine and divided by 1 by 2. So it is again 2 into 10 sine of t by 2, again negative. So this minus sign will become positive. So it will be 20 sine t by 2. Okay. So what I obtained now, voltage across capacitor is 20 cos t by 2 and current through inductor is 20 sin t by 2. Now let me plot this. So in order to plot it, first let me find out. So for plotting the waveform, let me find out the time where my voltage will be 0. So we know that half t means what? Here cosine of t by 2 should be 0. So where it should be 0? When t by 2 cos inverse of 0, which will be pi by 2. So when t will be at pi, then voltage will be 0. So with this, let me plot it. So I have to plot. Okay. So this is your time axis. So first let me plot for the voltage. Okay, and then below it I'll plot for current, which is through the inductor. Okay, so suppose this is 0, pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, like this. The same I 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, and so on. Okay, so first let me draw for this voltage. So what it will happen, initially the voltage will be at this, then as time progresses your voltage across capacitor will decrease, then from pi to 2 pi it will be like this, from 2 pi to 3 pi it will be this, from 3 pi to 4 pi it will be something like this. Okay, and what about this is 20 volt and this is minus 20. What about for current? So here it will be like this, then this, then it will decrease this way and it will go to 0 and then again continue. Okay, this for one time period we have drawn. Okay, so what we can observe here at t is equal to 0, here this, so capacitor is fully charged, okay, and current is fully discharged. Okay, so when capacitor voltage is decreasing, and going to 0 at t is equal to pi, what is happening? The inductor current, that is inductor current, it is increasing, and at maximum when the capacitor voltage is 0, it means when capacitor has been spent the energy completely and inductor charged and it has gained the full energy. Okay, and now current through the inductor is decreasing, so capacitor voltage is increasing like this from pi to 2 pi. When it is 0, when capacitor voltage is maximum in negative peak, right, and then again when capacitor voltage is decreasing in negative peak, then current is increasing in negative values, in negative direction. And then what will happen if the current through the inductor is 0 at 4 pi? What I am observing, the capacitor voltage is maximum at t is equal to 4 pi, right? So this way the capacitor is charging and discharging, similarly inductor also charging and discharging. Okay, so this is called as, this behavior is called as undamped response or undamped behavior, okay, which is fully oscillatory, completely oscillatory, right? Now let me talk in terms of energies. What will be the energy stored in capacitor and what will be the energy stored in inductor. Okay, so let me see what is the energy stored in capacitor. It is half CV square, so half into C was 2 and V is 20 square, so which will be 400 joules. It doesn't matter whether it is positive or negative, at peak I am calculating, so if positive also 20 square and it is square, so negative doesn't matter, right? So 400 joules. Now let me calculate what will be the fully charged energy. It is half Li square, so same, it is half value of L is 2, I is again, that is 20 here and it is minus 20 here. Okay, so when it is, you take it plus value or negative value, because it's square, so you will get it same. So same energy will be stored in capacitor. Once it is completely discharged, then full energy will be gained by inductor. Okay, so what I want to say, when at t is equal to 0, what is happening? Energy stored in capacitor is 400 joule, whereas energy stored in inductor is 0 joule. Okay, and now when t progresses and at t is equal to pi, what is happening? The energy stored in capacitor is 0, whereas energy stored in inductor is 400 joule. So here energy first stored in C, then thereafter transferred to L, and then again from L transfer back to C. Okay, and thus there will be the oscillations, and thus we can achieve the oscillations. And also because of the absence of resistor, there is no energy dissipation, so the energy will be fully utilized. Okay, now if I would like to calculate what will be the energy at any time t, so it will be half CV of t square plus half L I square t. Okay, right. So half CV square plus half Li square. So half C is 2, V square is what? 20 square into cos square T by 2 plus half into L is again 2. So I square is again sine. Okay, so it will be sine square T by 2. Okay, and into L is, no, it will be L given, sorry, this will not come, so this will be I is 20 square and sine square T by 2. Okay, so this will be 20 means 400 cos square T by 2 plus 400 sine square T by 2, and then 400 again I'll take it common, so it will be cos square T by 2 plus sine square T by 2, which is again 1. So the energy at any time will be always 400 joule. Okay, so full energy is there, there is no energy dissipation. It is because there is no presence of resistor, whereas in other three cases what we have said, there was a resistor present, so due to the presence of resistor, energy has been dissipated, and so that sometimes current will goes to 0. Okay, and so that there is a damping also. Okay, now let us summarize all these 4 cases. So we know our second order equation is, let us take it for series RLC. So what were the roots, or first let us write the equation. For series RLC it was d2y by dt square plus it was r by L di by dt plus 1 over LC I of t, which is 0. It was for series RLC. And if I write for parallel RLC in terms of node voltage, so what you will get, d2v by dt square plus 1 over RC dv by dt plus 1 over LC v of t. Okay, maybe 0, may not be. Okay, that depends on the forcing function. Okay, now let me take it this series RL, find out the roots. So P1 P2, what will be the roots? Minus B plus minus B square 4 AC, so 4 divided by LC. Okay, divided by again 2A, so this I can write as minus R upon 2L plus minus 1 by 2 R square L square minus 4 LC. Okay, now the behavior of this totally depends on this radical. Okay, so first, what was the first case? First case was when your R by L square, when it was greater than 4 times LC, means what? Your R square, if it is greater than 4L square over LC, means R square is greater than 4L upon C, in short. Okay, so when square of the resistance in series RLC is greater than 4 times the ratio of L by C, then your roots P1 and P2 will be, that is minus R by 2L plus minus 1 over T R by L square minus 4 upon LC was real and it is distinct, right? Okay, and if this is the case, what kind of equation you got for I of t? It was k1 e raised to say minus p1t, suppose okay, e raised to p1t, and it was plus k2 e raised to p2t, and remember that p1 and p2 has to be negative, then only it will be stable, or it will converge, otherwise it will go to infinity. Okay, so if this is the case, then how was the behavior was like this. So initially the current was 0, then at t tends to infinity, also finally also current will be 0. So this is the plot for the condition r square was greater than 4l upon c. Okay, now next, and it was called as overdamped. Okay, now next, when r square is equal to 4l upon c, what we say, this radical will be 0, means your roots will be repeated. Okay, and it will be real and repeated. Fine. So if this is the case, then what will be the solution? It will be k1 plus k2 into t into e raised to p1 or p, or you can write p, and p again remember has to be negative. Okay, so at that time how will be the response? Again it is same as of your first case, but it will be like this. It will be this way. Okay, fine. So this is for when r square is equal to 4l upon c. And now third case, when r square is less than 4l upon c, then your roots will be real or complex conjugate, not real, it will be complex conjugate pair, and at that time what will be the current? Current will be k some constant into e raised to minus r upon 2lt into sine omega. So omega will be this. Okay, so omega I can take it 1 by 2 inside, so it will be r square over 4l square minus 1 over lc into t in this form. And this will be, if I will plot, it looks like it will go this way, and again there will be damped sinusoidal. Okay, so this condition is when r square is less than 4l upon c. So first is called this, where it is, this is called critically damping. Okay, this is called over damping, and this is called under damping. And fourth case, when r is not there, means r is also, this r is not there, this r is not, minus 4 upon lc, so at that time you will get it this sinusoidal form. Okay, so why it is called as critical damping? Because r square is equal to 4lc, so I am seeing this, okay, as a case, or this as a boundary case. If r square value, the register value is equal to 4l upon c, I will get it this. And if it is where the form is changing, when r square is greater than 4lc, it is this, and when r square is less than 4l upon c, then the different form you are observing, right? So that's why it is called as critical value. It's the critical value of R where your form is going to change. Okay, so when R square is greater than 4LC means it is overdamped. Over means the meaning of here is means more than, right? So when the value of R square is more than 4L upon C, that's why it is over damping. Okay. And when R square, that is critical value, R square is equal to 4L upon C, I'll get it this critical damping, and if it is less than, I'll get it undamped, underdamped behavior, and if it is greater means more than, I'll get it over damping. Okay, that is why the names are given as underdamped and overdamped. Okay, so why critical damping? It is the boundary value of R, and beyond upper or below of it, the form is going to be changed. Okay, so overdamp means the value of R is more than the critical value. Under means the value of R is less than the critical value. That's why the name has been given that way. And undamped means there is no damping at all. It will be oscillatory. Okay. Now this way we can solve the second order circuit. Now let us again generalize the things what we have seen. So till now we have seen how to solve first order and second order circuits for the different excitations. That is for first order RL, RC we have seen for the constant excitation as well sinusoidal excitation. Similarly, the RLC series or RLC parallel we have seen for the constant excitation. You can solve for sinusoidal excitation also using the same process. Now next we'll see how we can generalize the not terms, how we can generalize the solution. So what we have seen, let us revise it. Okay. So basically my first order equation was dx by dt plus, it was generalized a1x which was equal to some forcing f of t. So what we have done, we have used the operator p which was d dt. So I will write p x plus a1x which is equal to f of t, right? And from that what can be done, p plus a1 into x or x of t which will be equal to f of t. And I should know for x of t, so x of t we can write as p plus a1 into forcing function. This for first order. What was for second order? Let me write for second order also d2x by say dt square. Generalized a1 dx by dt plus a2 x of t which is equal to some forcing function f. So this also I will use the operator p is equal to ddt. So this will be p square x plus a1 px plus a2x which will be equal to f of t, and this is p square plus a1p plus a2 into x or x of t will be equal to f of t. And if I would like to obtain it, what was x of t? X of t is 1 over p square plus a1p plus a2 into f of t. Okay, so now look at this carefully. This part and this part what we have taken, that is your system operator, right, which was your Heaviside operator. So this I can write x of t will be equal to the Heaviside operator h of p into the forcing function. This is what the overall thing we have seen. Okay, so x of t is the response which I want, and f of t is the forcing function or x of excitation which is given to the network, right? So what does it mean? This h of p is your system operator or is your Heaviside operator. Okay, and if it is equal to 0, then that is called as characteristic equation. Okay. So what basically is doing, this Heaviside operator or system operator is applied on forcing function in time domain to generate the response in time domain. Okay. Means what? H of p I am applying on the forcing function to generate the x of t or to generate the response in time domain. This is what we have to do in the circuits. Okay. For example, suppose I have this circuit or I have this network. To this I have given some excitation like this. Say this is my V in, and I am interested for specific V naught of t. Okay. So how can I calculate V naught of t? V naught of t will be equal to your Heaviside operator H of p applied on the excitation which is given. Okay. So for that what I need what will be my Heaviside operator, or what will be my system operator, or what will be my characteristic operator, right? So that how can, or this again can be explained that way. Suppose I have the two terminal network like this, okay, and there are so many resistors, inductors, capacitors, again there's so many things are consist of, right? So what we suppose this is my I and this is my V across it. So this can be used in context of the admittance and the impedance operator, right? So in time domain, so what it will be, V of t will be equal to H of p into I of t. Okay. So system operator operating on I to get it H V of t, or this is what it will be your impedance, and if I would like to write for current with voltage, so it will be your admittance. Okay. So basically your Heaviside operator as good as related with the impedance operator or admittance operator. Okay. For example, for inductor, let us define for inductor also. So if this is my inductor L, so what it was, V of t is or L di by dt. So this I can write as L P I. Okay. So this is V is equal to H of p into I. Okay. And this is your impedance operator, or if I would like to write for I, it will be 1 by L V of tau d tau, which is 1 over L into 1 over P into V. So this is my admittance operator. Okay. Similarly for capacitor also, okay, I will be equal to C dV by dt. So this will be CPV, and which CP is your admittance operator. And similarly, if I would like to write for voltage, so it will be I of tau d tau, say this is, okay, so it will be again 1 over C into 1 over P I, which will be again the impedance operator. Okay. So this way the system operator signified. Okay. That will be either in terms of impedance or, so why I am telling you that till now what we have done, if I would like to solve the dynamic circuit, I have to write the equation, then I have to solve it, that is I have to do some here and there so that I will get it in terms of the differential form, then I have to find complementary solution, particular solution, and so many things, right? Now the same thing can be with this impedance or admittance operator. We can directly write in terms of the response which I would like to calculate is equal to the system operator applied on your simple excitation, and you can solve immediately. For example, so with this we stop here. We will continue in the next class. Thank you very much.